Welcome to How to Attend a J-Fashion Meetup. I'm Jessica.
I'm Emma.
And today we're going to go through kind of like the basics of if you are new to J-Fashion and you want to meet up with your fellow, J-Fashion appreciators, hobbyists, wearers.
People who wear cool stuff.
Or if you just want, if you're someone who, has been in the fashion, but you need like a little reminder of like how to go socialize with people in public again.
It's been a little while
once
made physical contact with the outside world. So if you don't remember how to attend a meet, you're at the right place.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So, who are we? Why are we telling you what to do?
It's a little existential, but I'm Emma. I'm a Gothic Lolita. I've been wearing the fashion for, I think I'm coming up on my 5-year anniversary soon, so that's exciting. Yeah.
And my name is Jessica. I also go by Ob6We on Instagram, and I have been wearing Gothic Lolita and Kuro Lolita for about 9 years, which is also the same amount of time I have been attending meetups in the San Francisco Bay Area. And there's a lot of meets that happen in the area that we live in. So we've had a wide range of different kinds of meetups, from like very active ones to like more fancy ones. And we want to kind of go over all the different options there are and how to kind of maybe foray your way into attending these events.
There's a wide variety of meetups you can attend.
Yes, we'll go over it. So what is a J-Fashion meetup? It's pretty simple. It's just when you have a bunch of people who wear J-Fashion, in a local area, or sometimes if it's like a bigger meetup, there are people who travel maybe hours to attend a meetup. You hang out, you talk about, J-Fashion, but also just your hobbies in general. You make friends. Hopefully, you can get to know people inside the fashion and continue to talk to them outside of the fashion, that kind of thing. So, COVID-19 disclaimer, because as we are recording this right now, we have just entered the yellow tier, I believe, for the Bay Area. So we are doing really well in terms of vaccinations, but please still follow all of the ordinances from wherever you are locally. If you're someone who's not from the San Francisco Bay Area, please ask your moderators and your administrators about what the guidelines are, and please still do social distance, wear masks, be careful about like eating food around other people because you will have to unmask to do that. And if that's the case, you might want to have like caps on your meetups. And if you are somewhere where it's a little bit more dangerous, please attend to virtual meetups until you can meet up in person. So yes, stay safe, everybody. So attending your first meet. First of all, how do you even find other J-Fashion people, other Lolitas?
Through the grapevine, quite literally.
I believe, there used to be kind of like an updated kind of spreadsheet of like where all the J-Fashion people are, like the local Facebook groups and stuff. I don't believe that's been a thing for a very long time. So you do need to like maybe use like the hashtags on like social media. Be like, hey, like I'm interested in like finding out how people meet up. Please tell me.
If there's a J-Fashion shop in your area, you can ask people that work at the shop if they know. They more than likely do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or if sometimes like certain comms will have their own hashtag that you can find.
Or Instagram account.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, sometimes they will have an Instagram account, which I do run one for the SF Bay Area, which is it's at SF or SFEGL_comm, which if you're interested in joining that and you are into Lolita, feel free to request an invite. We also have a Facebook group, which is, I believe, still...
I think it's the same, SFEGL Bay Area.
Most people most local communities have a Facebook group.
At the very least, they will have a Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
Just gotta do some digging.
Mm-hmm. And nowadays, a lot of places have like their own Discord, you know, that kind of thing. But you do have to ask around a little bit, because one thing is that J-fashion groups tend to be a little bit secretive to avoid creeps.
To be very blunt about it, yes.
Yeah, just so they're not creeped on, which is, you know, we want the safety for our
We're not
members.
here to be gawked at also,
no.
So. I mean, I am personally.
Another thing to find out is, how often do they host meets? Is it monthly? Is it like twice a year? What's their, you know, what do they do? Do only mods host meetups, or is anybody allowed to? You know, these are things to want to find out, because, you know, maybe you want to attend meets a little bit more, but no one's offering to host them, so maybe you need to host them. But that's another topic.
Very long topic for a different panel.
Yeah, and if there's not an active community, maybe you have to make it. Maybe you have to reach out and be like, "Hey guys, would anyone want to hang out with me? I wear a funny fashion. Come do it with me."
You might just have to stick to kind of an online community, which is totally doable and totally reasonable, and you can just travel to the closest community.
So if it is your first time if your first time attending a meet and you are a little bit nervous, which is understandable, one thing that you might want to consider doing is messaging the host of the meetup. Just let them know it is your first time attending. You know, ask them like, "Hey, is there anything I need to know about like this specific kind of meetup?" Depending on like what kind it is. If it's a tea party, you might want to be like a little bit more dressed up. If it's a swap meet, it's very casual. You know, if it's a fashion walk, you just literally show up and you like walk around and you hang out, and it's, you know, also kind of casual. But depending on what you're looking for and like what kind of experience you are looking to have, it's kind of important to take into account like what kind of meetup it is. Right. Oh, attending, this was supposed to be a pop-up. It's fine. Attending meetups. So how do you find people close to you? It's not this way. This won't happen.
They won't pop up on the internet. I mean, they might.
Don't click on those ads.
For Jessica, you popped up on my Instagram, and I was like, I found a Lolita in my area, and it turns out you live 5 minutes away. So
it's true. It's true. Sometimes they will be this far away from you. But so types of meetups. Here are some kinds of meetups that are available to attend.
All of them, but these are a wide range of all the ones we could pretty much think of. These are the majority. There are some niche ones that are really cool and exciting, but these are basically all the typical ones you're going to see.
I feel like a lot of times people, like when they think Lolitas, they're like, oh, they only do tea parties.
No.
This is not the case.
We
are good at tea parties. It's very true. But
we like to eat snacks.
We like to eat snacks. But yeah, you can go to a tea party. There's regular restaurant meets where you eat whole ass meals.
KBBQ. Wouldn't recommend it.
Wear a loose dress.
Wear loose dress.
We go to picnics, which is a really good option.
Good for
right
larger
now.
Groups of people as well, because usually if you're doing a picnic, you're going to do it in a bigger area, so you don't need to worry about reserving a bunch of spaces in a tea party, and you just show up.
And right now, because it's outdoors only stuff, maybe do a picnic. It's very casual. You bring your own blanket. Very cute. There are several paid activities that you had to put down money for, where sometimes you walk around an area like a museum. Sometimes you jump on trampolines and you play laser tag. Sometimes you learn how to make chocolates. If Lolitas trust you enough, or if a J-fashion person trusts you enough, maybe they'll invite you into their home. If you're a vampire, you do need to ask permission to enter. And you can watch movies. You can play board games. Sometimes it's a tea in somebody's house. If you are of drinking age, bar meets are really fun, because you get to fill up a bar with people who are dressed.
Just bump everybody with your petticoat. It's a great time.
You can go see a show.
Yep.
Sometimes
or
of like
just walk
shopping
around,
events.
go shopping.
Yeah.
Usually that happens after meets most of the time. Is just a bunch of people will continue to go shopping after a tea. So
right, especially if there's like places to shop in your area. Because for SF Comm, we do a lot of our shopping in Japantown SF because it's very easy for people to meet up there and just walk around casually.
and then convention meetups, which are a default at most anime conventions. So
yeah, there's usually one every Fanime. There's both a fashion walk, I believe, that is hosted by attendees, as well as like a Lolita meetup, which is hosted by attendees.
And I think a restaurant one.
Yeah, like you.
There's a lot. It's fun.
Etiquette. This is really important because sometimes it's hard to remember how to talk to people.
How do you people?
How do you interact?
I'm so excited to getting back out to the world again and having to figure out how to interact with people. A skill that I was not great at already.
And I feel like a lot of people who are not necessarily the best at socializing, and I'm including myself in this, join J-fashion because, like, we tend to be a little bit eccentric.
A little bit. Have strange hobbies outside of this.
Yes. So one thing to keep in mind is if you are not someone who wears J-fashion, please don't attend a J-fashion meetup.
Not to like keep you away from this, but it is a little peculiar if everybody's dressed up in J-fashion and there's someone just hanging out normally in person. It looks not out of place, but might make some people uncomfortable also.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think it's like even about looks. It's just that like people who attend a J-fashion meetup, they're there to meet other people who also wear the fashion. And so if you're working on a wardrobe, maybe like, and you still want to go to a meet, maybe be like, hey, like I have like enough pieces to maybe make one outfit and then I can attend. So so that it's not so much like, oh, like prove you're into this thing. Cause like we are in no way trying to gatekeep people who are actually interested in participating in wearing the fashion. It's just a matter of like, again, safety.
Yeah, and you could always message the mod too if you're like very new and you're like, I only have a skirt and a lollyable top.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be okay. But definitely try your best to at least wear J-fashion if you're going to go to an event, or you can wait a little bit or attend a virtual event and see if that's okay. I have attended virtual events in hoodie before because sometimes that's how you feel.
Yeah, and also it also depends on like what kind of setting it is. Like
and
if you have not that many pieces, maybe you go to a more casual meetup. Yeah, and it's fine.
We need to have a casual meetup.
Yeah, we should do that. Check to see, especially if it's a paid event, if you are allowed to bring a +1. A lot of people like to bring their significant others. Maybe they want to bring a friend. But if there's limited seating and other people who also are in the community want to join in, it can be considered rude to bring a +1, depending on what the host says. A lot of times it is okay, but definitely check in with the host before.
Especially for a picnic meet, or if it's a private event that your +1 is also familiar with the host and friends with the host, it's probably going to be okay, but try to keep that limited as well.
Yeah, like if there is if it's like a highly sought after meet where everyone's like, oh, I'm really trying to get into this one, like maybe don't bring your +1.
Bonus points if they also come in J-fashion though. So
right, you can dress up. A lot of like specifically boyfriends.
The Lolita boyfriends, yes.
The Lolita boyfriend outfit. They have the one outfit.
Just put them in a moitié top and they're good.
Yeah. And if you also have pets or children you want to bring, please also message a host and tell them, like ask them permission, because sometimes the setting isn't right for your pet or your child. And another thing is the host does work really hard to help bring the event together. So, if you are attending a meet that is hosted by someone, please remember to thank them, show appreciation for them, after the event, that kind of thing. Another thing is you don't have to attend every event. You can skip some if it doesn't work for your schedule.
Yeah. There's FOMO. There's going to be FOMO. You're going to be worried if you can't either make it out. Some of our events here we have to drive to, and I do not drive myself, so it's You'll miss out on events and people will have a great time, but it's okay. There will be many more.
Yeah.
There will be more.
And another thing to keep in mind is if you are at an event, there's a lot of not only intermingling, but like there's a sense of helpfulness. Like people will take pictures of each other. They will be like fixing each other's outfits. You want to be the kind of person who like also like I think it's a part of the culture. Like
it's interesting because it's also like another way you can get to know somebody is you go and you will be like, may I fix your waist tie? And then you just are best friends after that.
Yeah.
Or you take your picture for them on stairs and then you're their best friend after.
Yeah, like look, I think specifically when it comes to like these J fashion communities, it's like everyone needs to have their picture taken because we all want to document our outfits. Yeah. So people will offer you to take pictures, you can offer to take other people's pictures, but it's like an unspoken rule that like everyone needs their picture taken. Yeah. And if you are kind of afraid to, go to a meet because you're like, oh man, I don't like know what I would talk about. Please remember that like just because it's a J fashion meetup doesn't necessarily mean we only talk about J fashion things. A lot of people have hobbies that are outside of J fashion, and it's totally okay to talk about those. You don't need to talk about like the latest release or your favorite dress, although you can. It's a good conversation starter. But like say your hobby is video games or like sewing or baking or weightlifting, right? There's probably going to be other people who are interested in that.
And you also don't need to talk a whole bunch. I think even still, pretty much every meet I go to, I just sit and eat snacks and I listen to everybody. I'm not a big talker, surprisingly. I know you won't believe that, Jessica, but a lot of meets I go to, I'm pretty quiet and I am not a big talker with that. So I just, it's okay. You don't have to talk a whole bunch, but if you do, you will probably find somebody who shares at least one of your hobbies.
Yeah. And, you're not going to necessarily make like absolutely the closest friends like as soon as possible. But time. if you do have interests that are like that kind of are the same as someone else's that are outside of the fashion, that's kind of when you start to form these like bonds. Okay, attendance. This is how you RSVP to something. So a lot of the time, most of these events take place on Facebook. There will be a Facebook event. If it's something that doesn't have a cap and it's just like RSVP, open, you can just click the button like going yes. But I wouldn't do that unless you are actually planning to go because it will inflate the numbers and the host will expect for there to be more people than will actually show up. And it's kind of a bummer for the host if like, 20 people RSVP, but like only like 2 show up.
Yeah, this is also including virtual events as well, especially in-person events. That way a host can know how many people to expect. And if they are going to start something at the meet, if they have something planned and they're waiting
games,
on people to come, and if you're not coming, you can also change that if you change your mind. So
yeah, just message them, be like, hey, something came up.
Switch to not going, because usually hosts will check the very last minute to see how many people are coming.
Yeah, because it's also their job to kind of know how many people are going to show up, keep track of everyone, make sure they're safe and on their way, that kind of thing. So don't be too late. Something that people who wear Lolita and also other J fashions, because we spend a lot of time getting ready.
I feel disappointed.
It's like no. Don't.
As somebody who struggles,
pretty normal to be late. In fact, I'm always surprised whenever a meet happens and people are on time.
I'm always shocked when so many people are on time. I'm always like, how do you guys get ready so fast?
I've been to like one tea party where everyone was there on time. It was amazing.
I think I was late to your birthday, actually, and it was because I gave the wrong directions.
That checks out.
Fine.
So yeah, don't be too late. You are more than like 30 minutes late. Maybe message the host or just post on the event page. Be like, hey, I am running late, but try not to be too late. If you are going to a picnic, don't forget to bring a blanket and bring things like food, napkins, utensils. There's sometimes sign-up sheets for this kind of thing, but like if you're going to like this kind of public meet where it's like people are expected to bring these things, you know, figure out what else you can contribute.
If you're new, bring 2 picnic blankets and make a friend, because somebody will absolutely forget to bring their blanket.
Yeah.
Also, it's a great investment. I bought one at the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm like, I can go sit in the middle of the woods with a picnic blanket.
I can sit in the middle of the street.
In the middle of the street. Nobody's driving. It's great. Yeah. Bring napkins.
Yeah, you don't want to like go to a meet where it's like everyone has food but no one can like pick it up.
No one's ever just walking around like toothpicks. Depends on the type of food you're bringing, but
yeah. And good tip, if it is a picnic, maybe consider bringing savory food because everyone else will bring like cookies.
Every time. Just get like a box of cookies from like Safeway, and it's like, I kind of want something savory.
One time I went to a picnic meetup and someone brought a bucket of fried chicken. Amazing. So genius. Good shit. Canceling. It's okay to cancel, but please don't do it ultra last second unless there's a strong reason for it. And don't show up. Otherwise people will worry about your safety and if you're okay.
Yeah, things happen. We've all been to meets where somebody hasn't shown up. They've had to cancel after 15 plus minutes, and so first they're late and you're like, what's going on? And then they don't show up, and so everybody always wonders. It's definitely good practice to let your host know. Send them a message as soon as possible if you know you're not attending. If there's something super last minute, an emergency that came up and you cannot message them, let them know as soon as you can, even if it's after the meet. Just absolutely let them know. So it's, especially if it was something that was paid and you're scheduled to show up and don't show up.
Yeah. Because another thing to keep in mind is that if you have put down money for this event, like a lot of things require a deposit, don't expect a refund if you have already paid for it because the host is not going to get money back. They've already paid. Like you can't, if you cancel last minute, you can't, you're not going to be able to get your money back. So you just got to let them know that you're not showing up.
But it's go back.
Oh, go back.
Okay to transfer. If you do have to cancel ahead of time and it's like a week or even a day, like the same day, you might be able to transfer your ticket, or if you bought something in advance, somebody can switch your seat. Usually there's a wait list with events. But again, yeah, if it's prepaid, there's reservations you might have to make to go eat somewhere. Like the host might even ask for money in advance so they can make the payment.
Yeah. And, don't be surprised if you are asked for money in advance because that is how you keep your spot.
That's how you keep your spot. That's how they check to know you're coming. And it's also usually a selection of menus will be available.
Yeah. Okay. Payment. So if you are someone who doesn't drive and public transportation is far away from you and you can potentially get a ride, please give the person who you are giving who's giving you a ride money or other gifts of appreciation.
Yeah. Buy their drink there. Usually Lolitas specifically will have PayPal at the very least, so it doesn't hurt. Don't wait for them to ask you. Just ask them for their pay. Just offer it off the bat immediately. I have to do that all the time just because I don't drive myself typically, so I usually be like, what is your PayPal? I'm giving you money for gas because gas is not cheap.
And it's just like nice because someone's going out of their way.
And then they'll more likely give you another ride again in the future if they know you are a person who will offer to pay for gas. So,
if you are getting something that is a paid ticket, do that in a timely manner. Not only because you might miss out on like actually being able to attend, but just because it is again polite to pay for things on time. Yep. If you are going to something that you have not put down money for in advance, like you're all going to a restaurant, but it's going to be like a like you had to split the bill, which is everyone's worst nightmare.
Like, oh no.
Bring different kinds of like payment options. Like you have like PayPal or Venmo or whatever, but also bring cash.
Bring cash. Don't forget to add tip. be prepared to bring cash for tip too, as well, if you need to leave that. So that's very, very important. Be prepared to have money and put money down.
Mm-hmm. And kind of reiterating how to reserve your seat, you have to put money down for it. So, that's at the beginning, like before the event even happens, and you can switch out if you needed.
Yeah. For example, if you're going to a museum meetup and the host is buying tickets in advance, they will want the money immediately. So if only 10 people can come, the first 10 people to send the money will get those seats. So.
Yeah, and if you aren't able to pay for it like ASAP, put yourself down for the wait list. The host will be in charge of, or they'll sometimes have like the person who is trying to transfer their seat over to message the next person on the wait list.
Yeah, usually it's fine. Names aren't really attached, so like you can just say I have a ticket and they can take it since your name won't be attached to it. Don't expect to be able to get a seat if you don't pay. Just be like, I want to go, put me down on the attending list. Like most of the time there are people who are going to pay who will take your spot. So
but yeah, catch a ride. If you're getting a ride, make sure you pay the person driving or give them snacks.
The biggest takeaway is pay
catch a ride.
Rate them 5 stars.
Rate them 5 stars. What if there were like a Lolita driving service?
I would love that only because every time I have to take an Uber or a Lyft in Lolita, it's always like, okay, I'm gonna have to talk to them for 20 minutes about.
They never talk to me. They never even ask me where I'm going, and I'm like, I am dressed like I'm going to a funeral, and you're not even. They
acknowledge that. I was in a car one time with somebody who is not super polite to the driver about it, and I think that's the only non-5-star rating that I've gotten. It's very upsetting. Also, this isn't on the slide, but probably important. If you are with somebody who is taking a rideshare, don't be rude to the driver because it is not your Lyft account or Uber account that will be getting docked against. What a strange thing to think about that I haven't thought about in so long.
Yeah, I have not thought about rideshares.
Yeah.
Okay, etiquette, conversation. Here are some do's and don'ts for how to talk to people, because that is hard to do.
Yes.
Daily struggles. If it's just like a normal meetup and you don't know anyone that well, and or maybe just in general, don't talk about super sensitive subjects. Because
it's cliche to say, but don't be a weirdo.
Like, you don't want to accidentally, trigger someone. You don't want to accidentally talk about things that might be upsetting to people. These are like the obvious ones, right? Like, don't talk about death.
Adult subject matter.
Yeah.
Much. Don't talk about your favorite horror movie, which is something that I have absolutely done at more than one meet. And they didn't kick me out, so.
But yeah, just like the really obvious ones, like don't talk about things that are like super traumatic.
Be a little sensitive about that. Yeah. Be respectful.
Respect everyone's names and pronouns.
If you do make a mistake, just correct yourself.
Yeah, correct yourself.
Don't make a big deal about it. Apologize and then just correct yourself.
A lot of people, even if it's not like anything to do with, gender, a lot of people have names that they want to go by, because that's what they want to go by. It's really common for Lolitas, at least. Like, hey, call me this.
I know multiple Lolitas with multiple names, and I never. I thought you were Six Feet for the longest time. I was like, what a strange name.
It's true, I am. It is a very strange name. Don't cut in on conversations. Well, like, if someone else is having a conversation, don't just like jump in and like interrupt. Like, enter naturally.
Casually. Wait for a pause. And if there's no natural pause, keep it in your back pocket for another time.
Yeah. If you're going to talk to people about their clothing, don't make comments about like the price of it. Like, clothes are expensive. We all know this. A lot of people have been wearing the fashion for like a long time, or maybe they're just like an adult who can afford more clothes. Don't like be like, hey, your outfit must have cost this much money, or like, how do you even afford that? Like, that is not the most polite thing to do.
On the flip side of that, also don't be the person who walks around saying this dress was this many dollars. Like, people will know, especially if you have the $3,000 made to order dresses you can purchase. Like, people know. People don't need to make a big deal about it.
You know, don't tell someone their clothes are expensive. Don't tell people their clothes are cheap.
Do not talk about the clothes at the thing where you're supposed to talk about the clothes.
Yeah, no, it's like don't like say the price of someone's individual wardrobe. It's fine to talk about like, oh, like, you know, this most recent release was like this much money, right? But it's not. Don't come for anyone personally. Don't come to.
Or if you got a good deal on something, that's probably okay to talk about as well.
People love to talk about like a good discount. Yeah. And also, if you are in like a restaurant setting or like someone that's not inside, maybe talk about things that are a little bit more restaurant appropriate. Don't be loud. Don't draw like unnecessary, like more attention to your group.
Say more attention than you have already created in your group, which is already a struggle. Don't be. Use your inside voice.
Yeah, but if you're outside, you can use your outside voice. Yeah. Here's a big one. Don't concrete people in real life. It's concrete, baby. It's concrete.
It's concrete.
Don't concrete people in real life. No one asked for it.
Nobody asked for it. Somebody is probably really excited about the outfit they're wearing, or somebody might know that it's not their best, but it's what they had, and
it's what they wore too in that moment. They can't change it. They can't go home and like make their
go home and change my outfit for
shoes match to their head bow better. It's nothing they can do.
You have to. Some people don't have the most comfortable shoes as well, and if you're at a meet where it's walking, then that happens. I have multiple photos of myself wearing Doc Martens with a very, very nice dress because I was at Disney, and that's just what I had.
Like if it's something that you can fix, like, hey, you know, let me help you with your waist ties. Like, then sure, fine.
Yeah.
If it's something like, oh, like that person's tights doesn't match their necklace, don't.
Yeah. And don't touch their cords unless you ask. Otherwise, it's really, 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 really uncomfortable and awkward to have somebody walk up and touch you and you have no idea what's going on. Yeah. Even with friends, I've had friends come up and like fix my thing, and I'm just like,
yeah, let them know. Let's be like, hey, can I fix this thing for you? Like, oh, hey, like I've been eyeing that like dress for a while. Can I see how it feels? Mm-hmm. And maybe sometimes they say no, and that's okay. Yep. Another thing is that in conversations, sometimes you will see people and you'll be like, I don't know if I've met this person before. It's okay to reintroduce yourself or introduce yourself, because the thing is, like, you in meetups, you meet a lot of people and they will be wearing different wigs, different kinds of makeup, different styles, and everyone goes through this where they're like, I don't know if I've met this person. It's okay to just be like, hey, have I introduced myself to you?
Yeah. And don't be offended if you've met somebody multiple times and they don't remember who you are. I am terrible with remembering names. I am terrible with remembering faces. And I'm also a person where I look very different outside of Lolita. So I've also seen people in person and they're like, I don't know who you are. And I'm like, oh. Yeah.
It's fine.
Fine. I'm offended.
And yeah, you can talk, again, going back to, I think, a previous slide, don't be afraid to talk about things that are not J-fashion. Yeah. Talk about things that you like, because you're there to make friends and talk about things that you like.
Just running virtual events over the pandemic, Jessica and I have discovered that like almost every single Lolita loves video games. Yep. Everybody has a really cool kind of lifestyle hobby, like sewing or baking or foraging mushrooms, which is
a lot of people foraging mushrooms, or
a lot of people foraging mushrooms, arts and crafts. People like reading anime or watching anime, and just spooky things in general is another thing that a lot of people like. So, you know, Talk about cool hobbies that you're doing.
And even if it's something that like doesn't seem that relevant to J fashion, chances are you'll find someone who's like super interested in it.
Music.
Dining is what we love.
My
we
favorite part.
So, if you are somewhere where there's food, don't bogart all the food. What's bogart, Emma?
It's a dying word apparently. Don't take all of the food. A lot of the times, especially if you go to a tea meet, you'll go to a high tea with something that's on a 3-tier tray. There will be your food, and it will be specified as your food.
They like calculate it out.
They calculate
like this
it out.
many sandwiches for like this group of people.
This many people. Or if you're at a regular meet, like a potluck style picnic, don't take a lot of food. Don't take a bunch of it. Like if you're like, oh my goodness, like me, I absolutely love Doritos, and if somebody brings a bag of Doritos, I'll just be a gremlin in the corner. Don't be like that.
I mean, although to be fair, picnics usually will have too much food is usually the problem. So it's not
if there's
that
too much
common.
food, that's fine. Also, this was something that came up when I went to a vaccinated meetup with one of my other friends. If you're leaving a meet, that's something, don't take the food unless the host says it's okay, or you know the host, or you are the host. It's strange. Usually the host will offer it if they're like, oh, I don't want it. I've definitely had food offered to me to feed my partner, like, oh, take this and feed Spencer. And I'm like, great.
Yeah, a lot of people at the end of picnics will be like, hey, like someone take this, but don't like just
nobody wants
take
to bring it back.
Like don't take the thing without knowing that it's okay if you didn't bring it.
Because that is it's
weird.
It's not even weird, it's just rude. Don't take all the drinks. Like if it's an alcoholic drink and somebody brings a 6-pack, don't take all the beer and just like leave. That's weird. So eat your food, eat the food that you bring. Share if you're like, I can't finish all of this. Feel free to share if somebody is a little peckish, like I am all of the time. So
don't reach over people. You can ask, be like, hey, can you pass this thing?
Because somebody might be in the middle of a conversation and then there's just an arm sticking right in front of you. And you're like, okay, great, thanks.
Don't forget to be polite to the restaurant staff if you are in a restaurant, because they are accommodating a very strange group of people.
A lot of the times, I mean, just from personal experience, I've gone to in-person meets. Usually the tea places in San Francisco are more understanding because there's so many of us. They're used to it, but
they get it.
I went to a restaurant one time and the server was very annoyed with just the existence of our group, and it was very uncomfortable. And I was trying to be polite, but they were not having it. And if that happens, that'll happen. That's fine.
That'll happen. And maybe like if they're rude, just don't go back.
Don't go back. Don't start a fight publicly. That will seem worse. I don't even think I have to elaborate on that. Just don't start a fight publicly if there's an issue in the restaurant also. So
a hot tip for reaching for foods potentially is if you're wearing like a garment with big sleeves, you'll have to like hold on to it and like grab a thing because your sleeve might get in the food.
You don't want to tuck it into the jam. That's God forbid. I have done
that. If you are going to a restaurant, please buy a food or drink. Don't show up and not eat anything because that is not polite.
Go to a meetup at a sushi restaurant and get the cucumber roll, which is absolutely something that I do. It's
it's understandable if you don't if you didn't if you can't afford to buy a lot of the food,
or if you're not hungry, or just
if you're not hungry.
You don't have to go to that part of the meet. Just don't go.
Yeah. A lot of things will be like, hey, we're gonna walk around and then we're gonna go eat a thing. Maybe just do the walking around part if you weren't gonna buy the food. Right, or sip on a drink or something.
But you don't need to go to a whole sit down thing if you're not planning on buying any food.
This is not so much an etiquette thing, but this is just like a hot tip. If you're planning on taking pictures afterwards, don't forget to bring makeup with you so that you can reapply your lipstick or whatever.
Or take pictures before.
Or take pictures before. But this is something that
definitely bring. And you can bring a mirror too. Somebody might need a mirror as well. I wouldn't recommend using your phone. I see so many Lolitas using their phone, and I'm like, I have a pocket mirror.
Yeah, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Virtual meets. This is something that has been happening more and more for the last year, and I'm not really sure why. Why do you think that is?
I'm so lonely.
If you are still attending virtual meets like many of us are, please keep these things in mind for a smooth technical existence.
Yep.
If you are going to a virtual meet for the first time, check your settings, check your mic settings and the volume and sensitivity, and make sure your camera works before it happens, so you're not the person who's changing all the settings during the thing. It happens,
can be very
but
distracting too.
Yeah, it happens, which is fine. Yeah,
it's okay. You can excuse yourself and fix it and come back as well.
Yeah, and if your internet's a little bit shoddy and you're dropping in and out of calls, it's fine. There's not really anything anyone can do about that, especially sometimes you got good internet and sometimes you have bad internet, and it's what happens.
Sometimes it's raining and your internet just decides to not work.
Yeah, it's fine. Just work with what you have. If you're dropping in and out of things, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, try not
Everyone
to blame
gets it.
The host for that as well. If they're I don't like using virtual meets, the host is aware that this is the best we can get right now.
Yeah, it's we don't, no one who is hosting a virtual meet thinks oh, this is this is exactly what I wanted to replace in-person meets.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, internet issues happen.
Yeah.
We're all aware. More virtual meets will happen as well, so you are not missing out if you have to leave.
Yeah. Sometimes because of just how we are at the moment, you don't have to even wear J-fashion. If it's really casual and you're sitting at home and you don't feel like dressing up, just don't.
How was that?
Yeah. But check with the host first.
I was I don't want to dress up today. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Depending on what kind of virtual meet it is and who is hosting, they might have preferences. Check with them.
Yes.
Please do wear headphones or earbuds, just because in a virtual meetup, there's going to be a lot of people. There is a chance of echo, which is really difficult, and no one likes to call it out.
Yeah, and if you
no one likes to say anything.
Have a lot of background noise, you can always mute yourself.
Or push to
talk.
If
you only have an area mic, then there are several options on pretty much every single virtual meetup platform, virtual video platform. You can mute yourself. I would recommend that in between talking. I wouldn't leave that open all of the time, just because you don't know if you're gonna sneeze or your dog's gonna start barking or your cat's gonna start screaming, or keep it muted.
Yeah, food is okay to eat, but don't chew loudly into the microphone. There are options for different video platforms where it will just slurp loudly. It'll sense what noise is going on, and it'll filter out for you. But also, again, you can always push to talk.
Yeah, you can push to talk. That is
Yeah, and if there's stuff happening in your background that's it's understandable, it's fine. You can't control what is going on a lot of the time. But if it is just wild back there and there's just a lot of things happening and you have to deal with some stuff and run somewhere and come back, maybe it might be too disruptive for a meet. It might be interrupting everyone else talking. So just please keep in mind what level of disruption it is.
Yeah. If you are at a soccer game or something and not a virtual meet, that's probably a little bit too much going on. But if something does come up last minute, you can just excuse yourself and either leave the call or mute yourself and turn your mic or video off and just let the host know, hey, I will be back in 2 seconds while I handle this. It happens a lot. Or if your background looks like an I Spy book, like mine does, you can get a pop-up screen.
Yeah.
They're great.
I mean, I don't think anyone's bugged by a messy background or anything. We're making do with what we have.
I'm trying my best in my tiny
if there's a lot of just stuff happening,
just things going on.
Yep. Here's a short thing about hosting. This is probably its own panel, but
yeah,
we have one slide.
Just a quick couple things if you do immediately want to get out there and start hosting your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, just in general, be organized. Don't waffle on I think I'm gonna do this thing. like, because people will be more willing to go to an event if they're like, if there's a clear direction.
Yeah.
Like they want to know, like, this is where you show up at this time. This is what you need to bring with you. Like, you know, it's okay to like kind of be like, hey, would anyone be interested in this, as like a kind of preemptive, like before you make the meetup. Don't like make a meetup and be like, hey guys, I don't really like know what's going on. I need your guys' help, because then you're just not the host, right? Like,
and don't be afraid to ask a friend or another experienced host to help you set that up if you do have an idea.
Yeah, or like the moderators or something.
Yep.
Communicate often if there's any changes in what's going on. You know, if you are moving around during the meetup, make sure you are updating that constantly on the Facebook page. Do check to see, like, if you are dining somewhere, what is appropriate for your group size, and you know, if it's going to be a problem for other diners. If you're making a reservation, sometimes they'll like require a certain number of reservations for like a large dining experience or whatever. So just, you know, do research.
Don't be afraid to call ahead as well. If you're not somebody who's great at making plans or talking to people on the phone, you can also just go in person and ask and make a reservation. A lot of the times, especially with a group that is already wearing a strange fashion, it does cause some distraction, and if people aren't prepared for it, the restaurant might not appreciate it. So giving them just a heads up of, hey, my friends and I are going to be dressed up.
Yeah. And sometimes even like if you're going to a place with like a private room, that usually works best.
Yeah.
When you are collecting group payment, don't forget to account for tax and tip, because I know like some people who have hosted things, but they haven't accounted for it. And then like later, if they discover that they are out of money, and like nobody wants that. No one wants for the host to be out of money.
Yeah. So
keep track of who is RSVPing and who hasn't shown up, because, you know, maybe they have like a car thing going on. Like maybe they're lost, like check in with them, see if they're doing okay. Yeah, again, if you're moving around, make sure you keep everything updated on the page. And if you know that you have newer members attending, please be accommodating towards them. You know, maybe help them integrate with the group a little bit, introduce them to people. Just generally be like friendly.
Be a host. Be a good
host.
Accommodating host. Make sure everybody's having a good time. There's a lot more to get into about hosting etiquette, but just be aware of what is happening during your event.
You know, sometimes things happen. Things happen, and it's fine. You know, you just have to do workarounds. So just more general information about attending meetups. Dealing with the public. This is a big one. It's difficult for people who wear an alternative fashion to be in big groups in public. They will stare at you and they will ask you usually rude questions a lot of the time.
Never in my life.
And it's just something that you have to kind of come to expect. Sometimes they're very nice and lovely, and it's amazing, and you know, it's a good experience. But you have to always be on the watch out for people who will be rude to you and your group. And the bigger of a group you have, the more attention you are going to attract.
Yeah. It's very easy just to put your hand up and say no pictures and just wave them away.
And don't be afraid to decline pictures. But if they're like going to yell and stuff, which happened, just do anything that you can to protect yourself.
The situation.
Yeah.
You don't want to draw any more unnecessary attention.
Don't like yell at them back, or don't throw a fit in public. It will bring more unnecessary attention to yourself. And some other members of the community might not be comfortable with that. So please keep in mind that like there are other people involved here, not just yourself.
Won't leave. You can just sit and scowl in the pictures, which is something that I absolutely do when I see people taking my picture. And I do the circle game.
Oh yeah, like you just walk around. around. I do that too.
Just need to hold the circle under.
Oh,
I do the circle game.
I walk. I do a whole walkabout.
Just like turn around.
Or you can like bring a fan with you, or like an umbrella. Just like block yourself.
But also, if you're okay with pictures too, that's fine. Just make sure they understand that's not for everybody else. I personally, most of the time, don't care because I'm like, great, you have a picture of a stranger on your phone who's dressed up. Cool. But just make sure if somebody is taking a picture of you, if the rest of the group is.
Don't say yes on behalf of everyone else.
Yeah.
You can be like, yeah, you can take a picture of me. I'm cool with those. Like, my friend over here is not. Yeah. You don't need to explain what you're wearing. If anyone's like, hey, so what is this all about?
Why are you guys dressed up?
Can you explain this to me? Like, it takes a long time to have to explain, like, oh, like, this is the fashion I wear. This is what they wear in Japan. It's called this. It's called that.
Are you wearing that stupid man suit?
You don't need to explain it. Just be like, we're a group of people who like to dress up for fun.
I'm just dressing up.
It's a Japanese fashion. I got these clothes off the internet.
It's just we spend too much money on frilly clothes. That's it.
You don't need to go into like a detailed history of the J fashion you wear.
Often I've been asked if I'm attending a wedding, and I'm like, no.
That's a weird one. That's a weird one. One time I was at a meet and they asked us if it was a wedding.
Yeah, why not?
Are you going to a party? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Expect this to happen.
They're not going to go home and research the fashion. They don't actually care. So you don't need to take your time and explain it to them.
Some people are more curious than others. You will have people who stare at you, but most of the time they won't come up to you. I've noticed that the older they are, the more curious they are, and you'll have a bunch of old ladies coming and asking you, or they'll come up and compliment you, which is the best.
Yeah, like I wouldn't necessarily want to jump to conclusions and assume that everyone who's staring like hates it. They might like it. They might think it's neat.
Absolutely. I've had so many old ladies at a tea party I've gone to just say, you ladies look lovely, and then they've moved on, and it's
nice.
Very nice.
Like so, I sometimes
don't assume the worst.
Over time, I've become quite jaded, and I'm like, oh, everyone just like is out to get me. Like they're just mean, but it's not true. It's a lot of people are very nice. But yeah, carry a fan and a parasol. If they're bugging you for pictures, just tell them to pay. Be like, oh, I charge for those. Make them go away. Yeah, you can put up a sign that says photos $5. Like, which has actually been quite effective for our comm in the past at picnics. If you don't want to make eye contact, wear sunglasses and wear like a headset or like headphones.
A big giant hat.
Yeah, if you're like in public and by yourself, like traveling to a meet. But also definitely be careful on public transportation. If you are by yourself, maybe take a buddy with you.
Don't keep your headphones in, but that's just in general. If you're on public transit, have one earbud out if you are listening to music, or have a friend with you, or be on the phone with somebody on your way there.
Yeah, but just in general, if you're traveling by yourself, be careful, and because you might still attract attention, and you don't want to be like, harassed and that kind of thing. So something to keep in mind. Notes about private meets. This is kind of something that's like popped up. You see a lot of people be like, oh, like I see that other people are hanging out without me, and I think it's really rude because they're having private meets and it's exclusionary. So if you are in an area with larger community, there are people who are friends outside of that community, and they will hang out in groups. It is what it is. You can't force everyone to be friends, and if they want to hang out in their own time, it's not a bad thing. This can feel pretty exclusionary if you haven't made your own friend group yet, and it takes a long time to try and become close friends with people, even if you are in a community with like lots of people. Yeah, it took me years, literally years. I
genuinely had the hardest time going to meets for I think the first 3 years I was wearing the fashion, because I knew one person, and then that one person stopped wearing the fashion, and I was like, what do I do? And then Jessica fell into my lap.
Yeah, it's true.
It takes time. It will happen.
Takes time, and it sucks to feel like you're being left out.
But you can go to the more
it's not on purpose. It just, you know, if you are actively trying to make friends, maybe be the person who reaches out to people. You know, be like, hey, I really enjoyed like seeing you at this meetup. Do you want to like, you know, like just send them memes, right? That's what you do.
If you have a pet,
that's how you make friends.
And send them a bunch of cat pics.
Right. But like, you know, going back to the whole, like, you don't have to only talk about J-fashion thing is if you have a shared interest with someone that's outside of like that, you know, outside of J-fashion, maybe just message them about that. Like, hey, you know, there's this like artist that you like that we both are interested in. Do you want to like go to a show with me, you know, next year? Do you want to, here's a YouTube video, like, you know, maybe
cheese.
Yeah. Like you can also be the person who reaches out, and that's a big part of
and if they say no, that's fine. Don't let that get you down.
There are friends for everyone, and I've felt that J-fashion is a great way to not only have a community but also make like friends that will last for like longer,
especially as an adult, because how do you make friends
really
out of college?
Make friends as an adult. And I think that's it. We have a question section for this panel, but that will be live because this is a recorded panel. So we're going to travel through time and space, and we will come back and answer any questions. So thank you for attending, and we will see you in like 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.